Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Out of closed session, the board voted to reassign a principal to principal on special assignment. It passed 4-0. We will now go ahead and move on to our annual organizational part of the meeting. I'm going to hand it over to Jennifer.
So first up is your election of a board president. Do we have a motion for trustee for board president?
I will continue with Vina.
Sorry, nominees. I called for a motion. Do we have nominees? I'm sorry.
Vina, Terry, I don't know. Vina?
I suppose I accept. Any other nominations? Do we have a motion?
I will also appoint Vina as our board president.
I see. I say I need a vote. Go ahead. Yes. You accept. Okay. Continue on. You're okay. You can continue, board president.
We will now go ahead and entertain nominees for board clerk.
I'll nominate Terry.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Appointment of board representative to the Monterey County Board Association, Executive Council.
So with this one, I would ask that we continue to have Susan there until we can reconvene with Susan and see if she would like to continue, since she was on a 2-year period in that organization. So just out of respect, if we can maintain her there until we're able to communicate with her and see if she would like to continue as the board's representative for the Monterey County Board Association.
Jennifer, at this time, we'll go ahead and hold that on pause. So we'll move ahead to appointment of board representative for board committees on district organization and LCAP.
I nominate Wendy.
Second.
You may have
Favor.
two. You can have two for this one as well. And as we enter into our future conversations regarding unification, this doesn't have to be the same thing, but thinking that that is part of our district organization as well.
I think right now we should, well, depending on Susan, we might need to appoint somebody else for the MCSBA. So we just keep it with one, and then
On the same note, I think we gotta consider too how much we're willing to put on one person's plate, given the climate of things. But, we can always revisit this. So if we elect someone today, we can always revisit it and change it. It's not set in stone.
well, if we're talking about for unification wise, I think we can, I know we have that ahead, but that's a little different.
So right now it would be for like the LCAP committee and just any district organizational thing. So even if we weren't talking about unification, we would still have that title.
Okay.
So it would just be for board member participation, but if at any given point we were to revisit that, we would be able to switch it off then, just for the sake of having some more of a consistency. I think we should at least elect two board members at this time. Again, when Susan comes back and we revisit things, we can always change them, but just to keep it some type of consistent and body in meeting. We have one game. Does anybody else want to step up, or do you guys want me to just nominate one of you? I'll second. So, all in favor? Aye. And then adoption of dates and times, locations of the 2026 regular board meeting calendar. And then we have the example of the third Wednesday versus the example of the third Tuesday. So if Terry, you're good with always opening the session, this more or less would be the time that I would be available. That's just an FYI in case that was a reason we were taking Tuesday into account. But I'll go ahead and open it for discussion.
Well, I think on this one, taking into consideration that we've had last year, we had promotion, we had our board meeting right after on Wednesday. So that's the only reason why. And then some of our staff is the SEM day, so they're off a little bit early and some stay for the meeting. But again, and then also thinking about you guys, that you guys have a very demanding job. So I don't know what your guys' schedule is like for Wednesdays and Tuesdays. Because Tuesday, as of now, Lena can open at 5:30.
To clarify, teachers get out at the same time.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Or four.
you know what I mean. On you guys for your guys' work schedule.
I'm open to whichever way the board would like to lean. I just wanted to point out that what my schedule was looking like in case that was more of a reason why we were exploring Tuesdays.
At least from my end, I would rather go with a Tuesday, keeping in mind that you guys have, well, Terry has kids at the high school as well, and they have events on Wednesdays. And it just, she had to step out of closed session early because she had to leave and you weren't here. So just keeping mindful that so she can participate in her kids' events as well. I would think Tuesday would end up working better, especially due to our current dynamics that we don't know what days Susan can be here with us and what days she'll be out. So it might be a little bit easier to have a quorum on Tuesdays rather than Wednesdays.
So I'll entertain the motion.
I move we adopt the third Tuesday of each month for our 26 regular meeting calendar.
I second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. How about you, Terry? I'm sorry, aye. Sorry. We will now go ahead and, well, that closes off our annual organizational portion of the meeting. We will now go ahead and move on to our presentation from Santa Lucia.
Good evening. Tonight, Santa Lucia would like to present our LCRS grant. In the fall of 2024, we welcomed 3 paraeducators to our team. Next slide. Shanae Agnico, Ariana Flores, and Kelsey Reiniger. Our model focuses on the magic that happens in one-on-one instruction and small group instruction. In these settings, the ELA standards come alive. We weren't just teaching reading, we are developing speaking and listening skills through collaborative academic conversations.
In alignment with the California ELA content standards and the California ELD standards, our site has implemented a comprehensive literacy intervention model designed to bridge the achievement gap through targeted, high-leverage instruction. Since the arrival of our 3 dedicated paraeducators, we have embraced our literacy approach from general classroom support to a strategic, data-driven schedule serving grades K through 5.
By utilizing one-on-one and small group instruction models, we provide the necessary scaffolding as outlined in the ELD standards to support our English learners in our dual language immersion DLI program, addressing that 10% ELD requirement, and our students within our special day classes. Our program focuses on the 5 pillars of ELA standards, which is reading, writing, speaking, listening, and language, ensuring that every student receives the differentiated linguistic support required to reach grade level proficiency.
By integrating writing with reading and listening and speaking, our paraeducators are doing more than just helping, they're accelerating learning. We're seeing students who were once silent in the back of the room now finding their voices, some of which you will hear from tonight.
So without further ado, I introduce one of our paraeducators, Shanae Agnico, to present the important roles each of them take on daily. Unfortunately, 2 of our others could not join us due to finals this week.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shanae Agnico, and tonight I'll be presenting a little bit about what I do with my groups, as well as a little bit as what my coworkers do as well. As was stated, we currently are working with our kinder through 5th grade, which also includes our DLI and our SDC classes. And some of the things that we've done is we have access to iReady and the 95% materials that we can integrate into our lessons if we need to do that. For me, prior to coming in to be a literacy para, I was working with intervention, and I was trained in 95 RAP. Well, I had 95 RAP training, so it kind of all goes together. So again, like for me, for my kindergarten classes, we kind of work on letter recognitions, letter sounds. We do all kinds of, oh my gosh, my brain's freezing up here. I'm sorry. Sight word recognition, there we go. And then another thing we're trying to kind of integrate with our kids is when we're reading short stories, instead of them just kind of looking at the pictures and then flipping the page, it's like, for example, like one of the stories we recently read, the sentence said, Sam sees a pond, and I'll stop like, well, what else do you see in the picture just besides the pond? They'll point out, oh, well, there's the trees, there's, grass, there's people. So kind of getting them to think a little more about it rather than just look at a picture and then flip the page and read the next set of words on it. My 1st and 2nd grade classes are currently intervention classes, so I do use the kids with them. However, there are some times when I might have to like stop and break it down a little more for them so they understand the lesson better. Like if they haven't completely grasped like what would make a closed syllable, it's like, okay, well, we have the vowel plus the 1 or 2 consonants that follows it and stuff, and I'll grab a whiteboard, write it out, and like underline each part so they could see it and kind of help them better understand, like, this is why the word is said like this. This is how we just differentiate between open, close, or whatever lesson we are working on for them. My 3rd through 5th graders are currently working on reading practice and comprehension. For some of them, like with my 4th graders, they just need that little push to kind of work on their reading, because I have one that is currently here tonight, and I'm very proud of her. I mean, when she first started with me, she had such a tiny voice, and I could barely hear what she was saying. But as I've been working with her, she's become more confident in her reading. She's spoken up more, and I'm just like, yay, thank you. Because I mean, they can do it. I know they can do it. Some of my 5th graders, well, some of the examples of the books I have with me tonight are like, we've been reading the A through Z mysteries or Harriet the Spy. Some of my readers are not quite on grade level, so my goal for them is to try and bring them up a little more, although personally I would love to see them reading at grade level by the end of the year. That may not be completely attainable. So I'm just trying to take it step by step with them and, keep notes on, where am I seeing the problems? Are they reading robotically? Are they struggling with certain words? Are we, just not understanding what it is we're reading? Which is why I have this. I do have a small one that I keep with me, but this is pretty much all the notes. It's not completely full, I promise. On my students from beginning of the year, like each student that I've had past and present, on things that I've noticed with them, like if they're struggling to read certain words, if they're possibly not at grade level, what is it they're missing, so that I can also go back to the teachers and have a talk with them and say, okay, well, this is what I'm noticing. Is there anything you can maybe think of that might help them that I'm possibly missing with them? And then some of the other series that one of my coworkers is currently reading is the Erie Elementary series with her students. And something that we kind of do similarly is we'll read a little bit of the story and then we'll stop at a certain spot. And for me, I'll ask them, okay, so what happened in this chapter? Tell me about what happened so far with the story and stuff. And usually my students will come back like, oh, well, like with Harriet the Spy, we figured out that she's a spy. She likes, following these people. She had this person with her, but now they're gone. And it's like, okay, well, tell me more about it. And for my coworker who's reading the Erie Elementary series, she'll ask me, well, what stood out to you? What happened in the story that, kind of, made an impact on you and stuff? And, they'll talk about, like, for example, she was like, well, what if your friend suddenly got eaten by their locker? What would you do? Would you, take off running and screaming, or would you try and help them? Like, what do you think you would do in that kind of situation? So that's pretty much for the reading part of that. For as far as trying to keep our students motivated, we have all kinds of different incentives. Some of us use stickers. I have some pencils that write in rainbow colors that usually work with my younger ones. I mean, as an example, I have like a crayon. It's like a crayon stick that you change the colors out and stuff. They really like those. For the older ones, I kind of, ask them, like, what kind of things would you like to see? I mean, what would you like as some type of reward to kind of like keep you interested in doing this? Because, I mean, it's not just about, okay, here's the material, read it, learn it, we're done. I want you to enjoy reading and enjoy learning these things so you continue reading and you continue improving. So we'll, like I said, sometimes we'll talk to them and find out like what sort of things they like. We did get a book vending machine for our school. And a lot of the students have been pushing to get that token so they can get that book. And we try to keep up with them and see like what other books they might like to see in there. We do have some more that we do need to put in. These are the books that we currently have. And again, we have some students that are like, well, I kind of like this series, or I kind of like, I have some that told me Harry Potter. I know the Dork Diary series is a big one too for them. So we're looking into trying to get a different variety of books for them. And thank you. Sorry, I'm like, maybe an hour. So, as I briefly mentioned earlier, I do have a student here tonight that, like I said, she had a very tiny voice when she first started reading with me. But as we've been working on it, and as I've been having her read out loud to me more and more and stuff, she has gotten so much better, and she seems so much more confident when she does read. So if I can get Jimena Garcia Perez to come up here. So today I'm presenting you with a Literacy Improvement Award because of, like I said, you had such a tiny voice, and I wasn't sure. You seemed like you weren't very confident in yourself when you first started reading with me. But as we've been going on over the months and stuff, you've gotten so much better. And I may not tell you enough in class, but you were so good. You were doing so much better. I am so proud of you for how you've been doing. So just keep it up. Keep it up. Keep going. We'll get there. Yeah. And you have a token attached for the book vending machine and stuff. So, maybe tomorrow we can go look, and if not, then we'll figure something out. And my second student tonight, who I'm presenting another Literacy Improvement Award to, is Pepe Juarez. Now for Pepe, I had him in my group when he was in 3rd grade last year. He's now a 4th grader with me. And he has shown me so much how he puts in so much effort to try and improve himself. And though, even though maybe small steps, he keeps making those steps, he keeps going. And he's shown me and his teacher, Miss McKee, like that he wants to do this. And he knows he can do this. That's why we were so proud of you. And I wanted to present this to you tonight because I know you can do it. You know, you'll get there. You're going to keep going there, okay? All right. Thank you.
Talk about your two babies.
So I just want to jump in really quickly. Hello, it's me again. I think that what I want to say about each of the students who's getting an award tonight is it's a study in confidence. It's a study in watching these kids find who they are inside, find their voice, and find the drive to be successful for their own sake, for its own reason. They're not doing it for me. They're not doing it for anybody. They're doing it because they themselves want to be their best version of themselves. And that's one of the coolest things you can see as a teacher is to see a kid say, you know what, I'm going to do my best because I want to be the best. And so for all of you guys who are here tonight, I'm more proud than I could ever begin to express to you. I just think you're the greatest kids ever, and I'm so glad I get to spend my days with you. So thanks for letting me be your teacher.
Thank you, Ms. McKee. Our next students that we'd like to recognize are pretty accomplished in their reading skills. So we'd like to recognize them since it's December and they've come this far at this point in the school year. So Jesus Santos Perez has read 494,840 words. So he goes beyond what's in the book case. He will get a series of his choice. The next young man is Richard Chavez. He also is a high AR, Richard, at 597,538 words he has read. So, Richard, amazing job. Thank you, sir. Parents should be very proud. And at this point in this school year, this young man has not only exceeded his record last year at the end of the school year, but we're halfway through, and he has read 1,184,515 words, and that is Armando Cortez Pacheco. Thank you. I'm so sorry. We have one more that snuck in there. Nazareth Solano Alvarez. She is in 1st grade. Did she make it tonight? She did. I'm so proud of her. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. She also has come such a long way, and this was actually from Miss Camacho's class, and the literacy era IAs said nothing but great things. Again, a very, very quiet young lady, but has done leaps and bounds and has accelerated and reached her goals for this year. So already, there you go, sweetheart. Thank you.
I just want to say congratulations to all our students that were here tonight that received awards. I'm astonished by all the reading that has happened this year, and I look forward to how much more reading you guys will continue to do moving forward for this year. Parents, you must be so proud. You guys are all doing great, and we're just so proud of you, and thank you for coming out and sharing just the great things that you guys are doing. It's inspiring, and I'm glad that you guys are having a good time and finding, yourselves within these books, as well as, I'm sure, a lot of adventures and ideas. So thank you so much for spending this day or this evening with us. And parents, just congratulations on your students. I'm sure that this is a very proud moment for all of you. Thank you for entrusting in our district and in our schools.
So just echo what Vina was saying, congratulations to the boys and girls who were up here. Some of you guys look nervous, but you guys are fine. 1 million words. And no, but congratulations, parents. Congratulations for all the hard work. Our teaching staff, our administrators from each of our sites, as well to our IAs. I mean, the way Shanae was here talking, she seemed that that's her mojo. That's where she has to be. And so that goes a long way because that shows, the support that they're receiving. So thank you guys to everybody who made this happen. Thank you.
Just want to emphasize the importance of everybody that we have within our team coming from certificated and classified as well, and just how important it is to have all of them come in together and be able to help our kids. Something I have put on myself as a parent that I do consider important now that I have my own children, and maybe as homework for parents out there as well, is we understand that reading is crucial, and sometimes we put a lot of expectations on our children, like you guys need to read more, your teachers are saying to read, but we lead by example. And I'm saying this on behalf of myself, is that I've even told that to my kids. It's like, I need to read more. I can't expect for you all to do so much when I am not doing it myself. So we made that as a goal for this coming year, as well, including myself, is that we're going to take time off the TV, off the phones, off the stick, and we're going to get a book and we're going to read. I cannot ask of you, my kids are bigger now, to do something that I won't do myself. So I am extremely proud of all the kids that are here this morning. But again, just take that in consideration, parents. Sometimes just with anything else, even with our regular morals and ethics that we carry, our values, our kids see us as well, and what is it that we do. That includes even our Spanish books that we may have at home or at the library, where we can get our hands onto them. It's just, we are also something that they're looking up to as well. And that's important. And that's just something that, little by little, I'm thankful my 3-year-old is starting to like books too, and he brings me books all the time. And it's a reminder of how important it is for the literacy, the reading. So I'm extremely proud of all of you, even the ones that seem to be very quiet. But believe it or not, sometimes those that are very quiet end up being some of the brightest kids that you see as they grow older, with the continuation they have in reading. So I'm so proud of all of you. Just continue with the good work. 1 million. Wow. Probably be all of us combined. No, just kidding. No, but great job. Great job. Keep on going.
Congratulations again to the students and the parents. We'll now go ahead and move on to public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the audience to speak on something that is not on tonight's agenda. If you have one public comment submitted,
And KCETA, on behalf of Sam Smith, and who asked me to speak because I am here, wanted to bring to the district's attention that the price of the supplemental critical care portion of our new insurance, when we originally enrolled, was $0. And then at some point overnight, the prices jumped up to just under $40 a month out of pocket for teachers. And so we wanted to bring that to the attention of the district and at some point get some clarification on what happened there. So thank you for their attention to that.
is there any other members of the audience wanting to speak? Go ahead and make your way to the podium. While we wait for our next speaker, just a reminder to the public that during public comment, the board is not allowed to engage in a back and forth discussion, so it's not that we're ignoring anyone.
Carlos Victoria, classified employee. Not a comment, but a question and a suggestion. If one of you can express in Spanish how proud we are of not the students, but the parents. I know that at least 2 of the parents do not speak English, and I want them to hear that the district, the board, everybody, all of us are very, very proud of them as parents. Can you guys do that?
So we apologize. So nos disculpamos. Pensábamos nosotros que había alguien que estaba traduciendo por nosotros. Solo disculpamos. Pero para los papás de los niños que se fueron presentados con sus certificados, primeramente le damos gracias por venir esta tarde. Pero simplemente junto a todos aquí, nomás estamos orgullosos de sus hijos, de los logros que han hecho hasta este punto y que siguen adelante. Una cosa que yo comenté era la importancia de ser un ejemplo para nuestros hijos, como es leer los libros también, porque nosotros y exigir mucho de nuestros hijos y nosotros no lo estamos haciendo. So, una cosa que yo dije era que nosotros también hiciéramos el ejemplo y podríamos también leer más. Y esto puede incluir libros en español también. Pero todos orgullosos por lo que han hecho, los logros y cómo han crecido, ¿verdad? Porque nos aumentaron ya de niveles y esperamos que sigan creciendo en ellos. So, una vez más, los disculpamos, pensamos que alguien estaba aquí traduciendo.
Sí, igualmente, como dice Terry, muchas gracias por venir a pasar esta tarde con nosotros. Qué orgullo tener a sus alumnos en nuestras escuelas y que estén haciendo lo que están haciendo con estas metas. Y ustedes también, qué orgullosos deben de estar como padres. So, muchas gracias por venir y darnos la confianza en estas escuelas y en este distrito. Y de vuelta, dispénsenos que no habíamos tenido a alguien para traducir.
No, y yo también, un comentario que hice fue que les damos las gracias a todos, a los papás, a los maestros, a los asistentes que han trabajado con estos estudiantes. Porque si ustedes miraron cómo estaba acá la señorita que trabaja con ellos, que es de nuestro personal de clasificados, se miraba con la emoción, con esa alegría, querer explicarle el trabajo que están haciendo. Entonces, eso es muy importante porque enseña que ella está haciendo lo que la apasiona y es por ende que los niños están aprendiendo de la manera que están aprendiendo, como estamos haciendo énfasis de un niño que leyó más de 1 millón de palabras. Entonces, eso es muy importante, pero muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí y nuevamente me uno a mis compañeros de aquí. Una disculpa por la traducción.
En este momento estamos en la porción de la Junta donde estamos preguntando si hay miembros de la audiencia que gustarían hablar en algo que no está en la agenda hoy. Is there any other members of the audience wishing to speak on something that's not on tonight's agenda? Having no further public comment, we will go ahead and move on to superintendent report.
Good evening. So just a few things this evening, because again, we had Thanksgiving break since we saw each other last, so we haven't had very many weeks in school at this time. First of all, I know you'll address unification later under your board comments, but in talking with Dr. Gus, there will be a meeting planned for January to begin those mutual discussions between the 3 districts. And at that meeting, we'll be asking that the superintendent and a board representative attend the meeting. I had been asked about more than one representative, and Dr. Gus said, no problem. So when you guys have your discussion later this evening, you can discuss that piece as well. Obviously, we can't have more than 2 of you in these meetings. At some point, legal counsel does need to be a part of these meetings, and the other 2 districts that have been in this situation for quite a while, they each have legal counsel. So we have reached out to DWK to see if that's an area of specialty that they can assist us with. We cannot use Lozano Smith because all 3 districts and the county office retain Lozano Smith for their legal counsel. So therefore, each district has to have a different counsel. DWK is our bond counsel, so that is an agency that we do currently have a contract with as well. Taylor Farms, oh gosh, Audra, it was either last week or this week, we had a virtual meeting with a representative from Taylor Farms, because Taylor Farms has started sponsoring what they call the Golden Ticket. And their Golden Ticket is an incentive based on 3rd grade CASP scores. And so for the districts that have partnered with them, Taylor Farms awards $250 to every 3rd grader that scores proficient on the English language arts portion of the CASP. And so it's awarded in the beginning of 4th grade because it's based on their 3rd grade scores. And they are considering this an incentive to try and incentivize students and families to really emphasize the importance of literacy in those early years. And this is shared through assemblies and conversations with families and students beginning in 1st grade, so that by the time they get to 3rd grade, they're aware of this opportunity. So I wanted to put that on your radar because in January, we will actually bring that forward for you to discuss and vote on whether or not that's something that you would like to participate in, because if it is, we would want to pass a resolution that we want to participate in that opportunity for our families. Our SIBO open enrollment did begin, as you heard Ms. McKee speak to. And of course, we all understand that this was, a change of this magnitude is going to include some kinks in the system. So our business and our HR department have been working as quickly as they can to address issues and concerns. We also were notified just at the end of last week that Pro Youth had applied, as they do on our behalf, and for 21st century funding at CPMS, and CPMS was awarded 21st century funding. So more information to come on that. Another item I want to put on your radar is all of us in Monterey County received notices that Navigator Charter Schools was going to be bringing forward a petition to requesting a countywide petition to open and operate a Navigator Charter School in Salinas, one on the peninsula, and one serving South County. It's a 3-year rollout plan. It's all available on the MCOE site, and I can link it in a Friday update for you as well. So unfortunately, this evening was the first. There will be 2. This evening was the first public hearing, which I believe that's why Sam was not able to be here tonight on behalf of KCTA, because I believe he was going to speak. If not speak, he was sending a letter in opposition. Joni and I also have each sent a letter to be presented tonight in opposition to supporting a charter that would pull students away from our programs here in South County, because in reading their petition, we provide what they provide, if not more. So therefore, we are in opposition to that. The second public hearing will be on January 14th at MCOE. So again, we'll be sharing more information with you, but I did want to put that on your radar. When you read their petition online, they mention looking at opening the school for South County in either Soledad or Greenfield, but it's our understanding that they are looking at King City as well. So obviously, if it's in Soledad or Greenfield, it has the potential of pulling students, but it would involve a transportation challenge for parents, versus if they did open a charter school in King City, then obviously that's right here in our community. Winter break is coming up. Monday, December 22nd, next Monday, through Monday, January 12th for students. For staff, Monday, January 12th is professional development for our certificated staff, and we invite our non-12-month classified staff to attend as well. The morning will be focused on school and student safety protocols, just as we did last January. It'll be held at each specific site, so they're practicing responses on their site in their locations that they're familiar with. Then in the afternoon, the elementary grades will continue. They've had training starting last year and continuing into this year, but they will continue with more training in the afternoon on conscious discipline, which is something we heard quite a bit about at the CSBA conference. And our middle school will have a couple of different topics depending on the teacher's content areas. So staff will attend the one that's applicable to them, whether it be ELD and newcomers, Summit K-12, or social studies with our new adoption for our social studies departments and continued training. And then finally, our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee is still looking for members to round out that committee.
Any questions or comments?
Sorry, just really quick, in regards to the meeting, with MCOE and the other districts.
For unification? Yes. So this will be the first meeting for all of us. So in response to the state board redirecting the county committee to come back and begin working with the 3 districts. So this will be the county superintendent and legal there to explain all the steps in the process, not to represent any given entity. And then the superintendent and board representatives from each of the 3 districts. I don't have the date yet. And at that meeting, we will then set the future dates so that everyone that's a part of that committee can have a voice in the dates going forward. Meaning dates for meetings, not dates for the unification itself.
Any other questions or comments? And then we'll go ahead and we'll move on to reports from administrators. Board members, is there any questions or comments that you have any of the reports and administrators?
I actually have, it can be a three-way question. Dr. Ruiz one of them. For Ms. Davidson, I saw one of her concerns being our Sticks and Stones counselor being out. So do we have we reached out? Do we know they're coming back? I know that we're very limited on our resources for elementary, so not having that counseling portion of it can be hard. So have we reached out or do we know any update?
I did ask Lorena just to verify, and they will be making up services. So when they do find someone, this has happened before, and when they do find someone, they make up services into the summer as promised. So it's never too long, but yes.
Yes. All of her stuff is removed from the place where she was working. Gone. Fine. Life.
That was my question because I know like we're very limited with resources for elementary, and I know Sticks and Stones has been something that has been going on for years. So hopefully we can get that.
Yeah, it happens. They have people go out on medical. We've had it happen. They typically replace them quickly. But yes, students have to then wait for their services.
Thank you. And then one last one, and it's also Ms. Davidson, for now Mr. Daniels. I know that I saw that another concern was our IEPs being postponed or rescheduled due to lack of translation. I have seen it on.
I don't think it's so much the lack of translation. It's just sometimes parents don't show up and they have to be rescheduled.
Oh, okay.
And frequently we try to get them scheduled after school and sometimes during the day. And having substitutes to cover general ed and teachers to be able to attend those meetings has become a little bit of a challenge.
Okay. So yeah, I just seen it on one of our weekly updates that says
yeah.
For
they do get
translation.
rescheduled a lot.
And I was seeing for translation, so I just wanted to make sure that we were able to find the loophole through there.
Yeah,
to get
we
okay.
typically do, even if admin has to cover classrooms, which we've done before to release teachers to attend the IEPs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments to any of the administrators? While you think about it, I'll go ahead and ask. Dr. Ruby, regarding your family engagement, the first team attendance, can you elaborate a little more on that?
So this is a grant that I had applied for last year, and it's the Community Engagement Initiative. And so it's working, it's a PLN type of work, but it's with all different districts from all over the state coming together and talking about sharing ideas of how they're building a community engagement in their schools and their sites and kind of sharing ideas with each other. Similar to what we do in here for our PLN with MCOE, but at a much larger scale. So this was the first meeting. When we received the grant, I had talked with Angel because I felt like Shalom Peaks really was a good place to start with really emphasizing efforts on building that community engagement. Just middle school in general, that's where it tends to fall off. You know, when you have all the littles and they're cute and they're fun and they're everything and parents are always there, and then as they get older, they feel like maybe they're not as needed, which we all know they are. And so it's more of building them and asking parents to come in and feel more welcome. And that's kind of where we're at, is building these trusting relationships, recognizing that we know that we need to improve the trust in the community with middle school. I'll let Angel talk because I ended up getting the stomach flu and I wasn't able to participate as much as I had hoped. So she can talk about the actual experience down there in person.
Yeah, so with our first person experience, it was pretty exciting to be in a room full of other educators, community members, families, and partnerships. There were over 100 tables of groups working on their projects in one room. It was pretty incredible. The noise level, but also just the excitement and the energy. Um, I think you read that our team consists of community member, a parent, and a student, as well as educators and district members. So it was a fun perspective of the team that leads us, engages us with questions to think about what our problem of practice could be. We looked at the school dashboard data as well as some metrics that they asked us to review to rate ourselves on where we feel we are. And it was really fun to hear from those that are not in education, their perspective of how we're working on our metrics and where we are meeting ourselves. I think educators were a little harder on themselves than our community members, but even our student asked some really great questions and gave us some really good feedback. And so as the team walked us through this process, it was easy for us to kind of narrow down where we really wanted to focus. And our focus became working with building that trust and creating those long lasting partnerships with our families, especially for our students who are chronically absent, long term English learners, and I forgot the third one. Special education. Yes, thank you. Students with disabilities. Because those are the students who generally fall into our categories with our school dashboard that are in the red and areas that we know we need to address, and looking at ways we can build those community partnerships with our families and the community, and then being able to support our students best in those areas. So we did work out our problem of practice, and it is rough. It was okay to be rough. They told us we're going to need more time to really dig into it and spend some more time talking about it and making sure this is where we want to settle. But we kept Dr. Booby in the loop. She joined us via computer, thanks to Patty, a few times, but it was so loud in the room because they literally had those 100 tables all working at the same time. And then for the breakout room, we went to the problem of practice, and I thought, why couldn't we be here the whole time to have our conversations? But it was really great. Yeah, we were texting back and forth, but the work was really fun, and it was really special to be able to work with the people that were there who are just as passionate about it. I think you know me well enough to know that where my heart is, and it was fun to have that be met with the people at the table. We also had someone from Monterey County Office of Education, Dr. Donna Smith, whom I've never worked with, but it was really great. We got to spend 2 days together really talking about our students and their needs and how we all want to work together to benefit our students best. And I'm super excited. It's a 2-year program. Our 6th grade student who attended with us, they started the meeting off the first day, like whoever you're sitting next to, you guys are going to be best friends. And I was like, oh, we're going to be besties. And he's just like, I don't know about that. But by the end of the 2nd day, we're besties. We're going to make it happen all together. And it's super exciting to have that kind of partnership.
How did we go about the makeup of the team? Only because since it's family engagement, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of these people have hands-on, but maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see any of our liaisons that might have been a good add-on to this team, and maybe that's.
Yes, great question. At the time of building our team, our family liaison was on maternity leave. And so to get the work started, next best thing, we invited our office clerk, who's also a face in the front of the office and works with our families and has a lot to do with what's happening in the office. And so you see Isabel Alvarez.
Thank you. My next question would be regarding our food service report item. You had mentioned in the report that we're having some issues with our vendors.
Do you have any updates on any of those issues, or is there anything that the district can do differently, or just wondering?
Unfortunately not. It's Gold Star and the vendors that they're working with, so the distributors, some of them are no longer in service, and they haven't removed some of the items that are on our website, so that's something that they're working on, but unfortunately, it's still working on that. So a lot of it's gonna change, and you're gonna see new items come before, but I'm still working on that.
Is it impacting what we're able to, I mean, I understand the items changing, but are you having a challenge with being able to provide, meals to our students?
No, there's just a lot of substitutions. So you're gonna see substitutes in some of the breakfast items and some of the food. So if you do see like a different hamburger patty, chicken patty, or maybe even sometimes the bread quality, then you'll see like that difference. But if not, then it's gonna be right back in rotation.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments to any of the administrators?
Just really quick for now, just really quickly, I know that a couple of the officers are trying to head over to for lunch period. Did that ever happen? for
We
you?
did, yes. We had two come over. It was the day of our end of the trimester barbecue. We tried to get them to stay for the barbecue, but they went and visited with the students on the playground and left, but didn't have barbecue with us.
I didn't see some pictures of me probably go, so I wasn't sure.
They did. It was a very brief visit, and unfortunately, I was super busy because I was the one barbecuing, and so I wasn't able to get any pictures, and I wasn't able to walk with them. But we would love to have them again.
There's no more questions or comments for reports from the administrators. We'll go ahead and we'll move on to consent agenda. Is there any items that anyone would like to have pulled and discussed separately on the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll move on to action items. Our first action item is approval of resolution 2025-2608, designating authorized agents to sign school orders.
This is your annual resolution at this time of year due to any potential changes in the coming year due to your organizational meeting. It's presented for your approval.
Any questions or comments? Having none, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
A, approval of resolution 2025-26-08.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Action item B, approval of BP 9320, update to reflect change in regular board meetings day.
So presented for your approval is an updated board policy adjusting the day of the week of your meetings to Tuesdays in anticipation of your potential approval that you had earlier this evening.
All in favor?
I move to approve action item B, approval of board policy 9320, update to reflect change in regular board meeting day.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to action item C, approval of SPSA for Shalom Peaks Middle School.
Hello again. So before you, you have our school plan for student achievement that we have aligned with our district LCAP goals. We collected input from our ELAC parents, and then we presented that input to our school site council. We solicited input from our school site council and made some adjustments and changes as suggested. And it is before you tonight asking for your approval.
Any questions or comments from the board or audience?
I do have a question, and this question is going to be most of this with all the other school sites. So I was looking at parent engagement.
That is goal 6.
I know about family engagement, and my question was, what is going to be done differently? Because you do mention, I can't remember off the top of my head which page it is on, the different ways to engage parents. But my question is, what are we going to do differently to try and get more parents to participate?
Yeah, great question. I'm currently working on an inquiry cycle around parent engagement. And so I've drafted a survey that I will be distributing out to parents in January when we come back from break. I will be utilizing our family liaison as well as my counselors to contact parents and have a few conversations with parents that have attended our events to get some feedback on what they feel is working for the events and what changes they propose we could make, as well as looking at some funds that we can use to provide some snacks and beverages for parents so that when they are there, they are not feeling overwhelmed or too frustrated because they're coming from work or their daily duties and then jumping into a family night and not really having a lot there for them besides the information we're providing or the activities.
And then my kind of still the same thing. A lot of parents don't understand schools like council, ELEC, and all of that, which is why they don't participate. And the reason I know is because of my work program, they would mention that. Is there something that you guys have thought about? And this is again for all the administrators, site administrators. Have you guys thought about doing something differently to try to encourage more parents to participate? So, an example, like maybe doing a session where you guys explain what that means or something like that.
Yeah, that would be what I would think about when you're asking that question is messaging and getting the information out to our families. I know that we have shifted some of our family nights for September in particular, where we talk about school expectations and what students should bring to the classroom, as well as how parents can support students at home. We talk about Power School and how to access that and what grades really look like and what they represent, as well as Parent Square and using that as a form of communication. So within that idea, looking at our back to school night, or our family night, our cafecito, we can bring in information about our school site council and ELAC committees so that we can share with parents how those are structured and how we would like to build those relationships and bring our parents in to hear from them as well, to create those partnerships that we're also working on with our community engagement initiative.
Thank you for your answers. That was pretty much it.
Any other questions or comments? Can you go to the podium only because people that are tuning in might not be able to hear it? So, sorry. But we're doing it for the audience purpose, sorry.
Just wanted to ask if for next year you guys would be having ELEX meetings at your site? Because I don't know if you guys have, because I usually use Parent Square and they're really good at getting those messages, but it's been a while that I haven't hear anything about ELEX meetings at your site.
Yes, we have not had as many ELAC meetings this year as we have had in the past. We're transitioning over between myself and Ms. Baltazar taking those pieces over. So it's been a hit and miss with the meetings, but we will definitely make sure that we get that information out better so that more parents have the opportunity to attend.
Any other questions or comments? None, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
I move to approve action item C, approval as the SPSA for Shalom Peaks Middle School.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Go ahead and move on to action item D, approval of SPSA for KCD Arts Magnet.
Have the, excuse me, we have the 25-26 KCAM school plan for student achievement presented for you tonight. Many of the goals remain the same as last year. Actually, much of the content of the goals, the strategies and activities remain the same as last year, and all of our classified positions remain the same as last year. Currently, our Title I and Title III allocations do not fully cover the expenses that we have included in our plan. Betty and I are working on that. And you'll see many of the strategies remain unfunded because of that reason. Pretty much all of our money is tied up in our classified staff, with the exception of about $1,200, which is a mandatory allocation for parent involvement. So we did meet with our school site council, our LELACs. We got their input for the plan contents during a joint meeting on September 30th, and the ELAC and the school site council approved the plan on November 4th. So I present to you our single plan for a school plan for student achievement and request that you approve it.
Any questions or comments from the board or audience? Go ahead, Wendy.
Sorry, I'm going to ask everyone. What will be done differently to try to engage more parents at the site level?
I really appreciate you asking that question, because that actually came up at one of our school site council meetings. We had a joint school site council ELAC meeting, and the parents actually asked if it would be possible to have some cafecitos in the evening, especially during the months when families get off earlier in the evening, so that they could come to those meetings at the winter months. We also have more of a PTO-driven, a parent-driven PTO this year. We have had a lot of, it's been kind of the TO, but we have a lot more parents involved this year, including many of our youngest, the parents of our youngest students. So they're doing a great job. We had a really successful book fair and a craft night the other night. So it was a great event. So we're bringing more parents into our PTO. We also set the expectation at our campus that we would have 100% participation in conferences. We guaranteed that every parent would be contacted at least 3 times to try to reschedule. And so our conferences kind of went into the next week for some families, but I think there were like 3 parents didn't attend conferences this year. So it was an outstanding number. And then lastly, during our conference week, we did have a resource night that was organized by Veronica and our PBIS team, where we talked to parents about school site council. We talked to parents about ELAC. We talked to them about all the resources that are available to our families, including, what were some of them? We had the library. We had our student council.
This is actually I want to say second year that we've done this. So the first year, last year when we did this, it was done at a very different evening, and we invited some local community organizations to come and present. It's more like a community resource night. And so we also had some local folklorical dancers, and that pulled a lot of people in. This year, the attendance wasn't great last year, so we thought, what can we do about increasing parent attendance to this? This is great information. So this year we actually had it during conferences night, the late evening, in the hopes that although some of our staff, like our teachers, could not attend because they were in conferences and some of our PBIS team couldn't attend, we would have other members present and we would have more parents coming in throughout the night. So we were able to hold it for a little bit longer of a period of time. And we invited, 22 community organizations and in combination with our school teams. So we included PTO, student councils, PBIS, Blue Zones, Monterey County Library, our bullying prevention specialists and our Harmony at Home counselors provided information. Our parent liaison was there with resources. Monterey County Behavioral Health was also invited, Soul Treasures. I had information about ELAC, what it was and how parents could be involved. We had information about school site council and how parents could be involved. We had, sorry, let me increase my Holding On to Hope is another person that we contacted. Sun Street, First Tee, Rotary, Kids Eat Right, which our fourth grade teachers have them participate in their program, Save the Whales, Mac Alarm, the Rec Center. And then of those, we actually had about 14 of those that we invited attend, so it was great. We did see more parents come in and out throughout the night, and we did give a lot of information about how they can join teams like School Site Council, PBIS, and get information about that. I think that best part of the night was not only just the goodies that they got from our local community organizations, but also they got to hear from our student council and the things that they do for their school community. So I think a lot of parents really enjoyed that. We're still tweaking it, trying to see what's the best time, what's the best strategy to increase the attendance for that.
Any questions or comments from the audience or board?
And I forgot to mention, I was asking, or I am asking these questions because I think it is important to work as a team and figure out what we can do differently to engage more parents. We know that parents will show up because of the district events. So what else can we do at the site level? So like, for example, going outside and telling parents, hey, there's coffee staples in the morning. There's an ELEC meeting later on and handing out flyers. The reason I say this is because they kind of do that at our school site. We have student supervisors and they go up to the parents and talk to them as they're dropping off their kids. So that's why I'm asking these questions. I forgot to mention.
And we do that with our cafecito. We try to not let them leave. We don't necessarily do that with our ELACs or school site council, but we do put it up on our marquee.
Any other questions or comments? Entertain a motion.
I move to approve action item D, approval of the SPSA for King City Arts Magnet.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to action item E, approval of the SPSA for Dollar.
Good evening. As the other sites have described, we're a little short on our funds this year. We are still able to fund all classified salaries as well as partial. We think, actually, I looked at the budget today, we think it's also going to fund all of our interpretation for parent conferences as well. At first, I thought we'd be short and have to pull from discretionary money, but it turns out I think we're going to be covered. I feel safe about that. So it is recommended. I recommend that you, would you please approve my SPSA for Delray?
Any questions or comments from the board or audience?
Can I just answer?
Yes, good.
But she
Okay.
she just found her voice not too long ago, so we're trying to reinforce that.
Well, all right. So we do try to describe our ELAC and our school site council and our PTO expanded learning our parent leadership opportunities. We spent some time in the parent cafe earlier this year, really describing and digging in deep. We try to get to those parent cafes that are early in the morning, first thing. We also describe it at our Title I meeting, but that annual Title I meeting is something we do every year. It also describes parent involvement opportunities. We explain it and describe it again during the spring LCAT feedback night that we hold. And then I used to do coffee with the principals But now that we have parent cafes in the morning, we've really focused our energy on that. And we've had some great attendance at our parent cafes. I know for a fact Mallory has also cast a wider net. Our ELAC is bigger than it's ever been. Part of the ways in which we've increased those opportunities is food helps. If you can get donations of food, that's great. Right now, we can't fund food. Childcare really helps some parents to be able to come. And we also like to award our students. Our parents will come and be involved when we're honoring their students in the evening. And so those have been some great successes that Ms. Phillips has had this year with ELAC. ELAC has always been a struggle at Del Rey for my career there, trying to build up that community because it needs to be a big voice at our school based on our population.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Now I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve action item E, approval of the SPSA for Del Rey School.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
We'll move on to action item F, approval of the SPSA for Santa Lucia.
Good evening. The Santa Lucia SIPSA has been revised and incorporated Title I and Title III and ongoing grant funding. All previous established classified positions will remain unchanged, including the literacy paraprofessional supported by the grant. Santa Lucia will maintain its tier interventions, collaborating with those same organizations, Harmony at Home, Bully Prevention, and of course, Monterey County Behavioral Health. Santa Lucia will maintain its emphasis on goal 5, 6, and 7, as I will get into in a moment, which will enhance the learning opportunities for our students, which we did purchase additional 95% materials for our students above of what the district has already provided. We will foster family engagement. Again, family engagement is important along with our DLI, and we're working on how to incorporate the two because we have such a high parent involvement for DLI. We're trying to incorporate the two so that we can transfer them over and help with our PTO as well, since it has been so little. And the ELAC committee, where did Mr. Jones go? We have seen a significant increase because we planned it right after a parent DLI meeting. And so those parents went to ELAC and learned exactly what it is all about. And so with that, the school site council and ELAC just participated in all of the discussions regarding our goals that were outlined in the plan. And so the plan, which was formally approved on October 27th for the 2025 school year. So on behalf of the Santa Lucia School Site Council, we present our SIPSA to the board for approval.
Same question. What will be done differently to try to engage more parents on the school site, part of parent capacity building?
As I mentioned with the DLI, we have such a large parent involvement. So we did have two, I forgot to mention, two movie nights within a month of each other. The first one being over 200 parents and their children coming along. Last night we had another, which was about 100. And so I'm thinking of throwing additional Spanish nights for our parents so that the parents can come with their DLI students and bring their kids to enjoy a movie in Spanish, not just in English. And then we would like to have reading nights. We didn't get that off last year just because so many conflicting things, and bringing on more of the reading nights for parents to come in the evenings and provide food or things that they can do together, arts and crafts, bingo night we want to try, and just various things that they can do both in English and in Spanish to incorporate.
Mr. Jones, that was one of the things I saw on here was your comment explained that a suggestion was made to have more connection between the DLI program and for communication. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate?
As Mel mentioned, we had taken a look at our kind of attendance patterns in the past, and they've been pretty kind of sad in the past. So we have a very engaged core of DLI parents. And so we decided to change our meeting times to a time that would be a little more convenient for parents that were already on campus. So we're going to try and piggyback our ELAC meetings to be directly after the DLI Cultural Committee. And we spoke to the parents and they said, yeah, that's great. It's a little bit longer of an evening because it's kind of two meetings back to back, but they're already on campus. It's our parents that are strongly interested in those ideas. And so we had a huge turnout for our ELAC meeting for the first time in a long time. So we're excited about that change and the parents responded to it. We're going to keep that up.
Just curious, what movies did you guys have?
Last night was Elliot, the smallest reindeer. Yeah, it was adorable. And the first movie was The Wild Robot. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Motion.
I move to approve action item F, approval SPSA for San Jose School.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to action item G, approval of ELP plan update.
So you guys have the full version in front of you. I have a slideshow that condenses it down. So ELOP requires that we update our plan every 3 years. So this is the big update. It will be coming to you a lot more frequently over the next few months as we make changes, update, do different revisions as required. But these will be consent items. So this is the only time you're going to see it as an action item is when we have to do the big revision. So we can go ahead and get started. So expanded learning opportunities program. The goal that we've set, or the philosophy of what we're doing, we're trying to keep it local. We're trying to keep it within our schools as much as possible. Recognizing, of course, that we do have to bring some programs in to make sure that we are meeting the 9-hour requirements of the day. And, so right now we have Pro Youth in for us. They do meet that requirement for us of taking the program to 6 o'clock. But we do have about 110 plus. We're adding, it seems almost daily still, of our teachers and paraeducators working on supporting students in the clubs. We have about 80 clubs right now and 1,200 students. The idea behind what we're doing by keeping this in our schools is building our school culture. So providing more relationship building with different adults, different peer groups, just creating a lot more connections than what students are getting just in the regular day. So that's one of the main goals for trying to keep it as in district as possible, but also asking our teachers to bring clubs that inspire our kids, engage our kids. Intervention is dry and or can be very dry and boring, and so what our teachers are doing they're providing very fun, art-centered, STEM-centered, even some math games and reading clubs that really do get the kids excited about coming and staying after school, and they don't really even realize that they're building their academic capacity. So that's the goal, and just to keep building and strengthening the program. Again, we have 9 hours that we fill in a day, so We have our 6-hour school day, and we have 3 hours of after school. We also provide 30 plus non-school days. So that's all of our intersession times. So summer, spring break, fall break. We provide programming for students during that time as well. Next slide. One of the first quality standards that we are looking at here is a safe and supportive environment. So our teachers and our paraeducators are all trained in Big Five safety protocols. During the regular school day, we have the Raptor visitor system. We are tracking our attendance currently on spreadsheets, but it's actually being transferred this during winter break to Power School, which will give anyone who is teaching a club access to all of their students' information for emergency pickups, health plans, all of that. This template the state has added in the emotional support, so making sure that we are meeting students' social emotional needs. So again, just looking at our regular day PBIS work that we're doing and bringing that into the classes or into the clubs after school, working through conscious discipline during the regular with all of our teachers and support staff, and then bringing that in. We've partnered with Scholar System to provide social emotional learning, professional development for all of our ELOP staff. And then, of course, just working having our students build more positive relationships with more people on campus. I kind of mentioned some of the club offerings already, but here's some listings if you're curious what we have. There's more, but these are just a little taste of what we have. We're looking to add more. You see First Tee up there. First Tee is looking to do a little bit more. You just passed the winter break MOU. They do want to look at doing what they did in the summer and doing that again, but also providing some regular year after school programming as well. So that'll be coming to you. We also have field trips that we'll be working through and working on, meeting with teachers in January, going through all of those guidelines and getting those up and running. Those will come back to you as a consent item for you to see all of the dates, locations, and I will have education plans for all of them as well. Next slide. The next quality standard, fostering youth leadership. So what we're doing to try to encourage student voice is, of course, the easy one is gathering survey data, asking the students what they want to see. The last survey that went out, there was a lot of slime. Slime. So that was fun. But seeing what they wanted, we had clubs that were already meeting a lot of those requests. So we did have some teachers that weren't sure what they wanted to teach, so they just added at their site. They wanted to see what the student responses were, and then they did add some clubs onto what was already being offered based on student data. We do have right now, we're really focused on the middle school for the Leadership Institute. Eventually, I would like to move into elementary. There's a heavy focus on middle school. We started it last year, and so we're continuing through this year. We did the 3-day leadership summit in the summer with SLIC, which was with Consuelo Kickbush's team. And then that has continued into this school year with Victoria Lopez leading that. You just approved a contract for Scholar System. Part of that contract is providing our students with some with the leadership kind of institute or academy during spring break, and then of course in summer as well, with some parent pieces that go around that to try to help them support the students. And the goal is, of course, to have a positive impact on our school climate, making our kids feel like they belong, like they're heard, like they want to be at school. So that's what we are working for. Our family engagement celebrations that we offer, you're all aware of those at this point. Those are all ELOP showcases. So they have the theme of Dia de los Muertos, Las Posadas, the Spring Carnival, Dia del Nino, but they are, the intended purpose is to, of course, show off what we are doing in our ELOP clubs. And so we're trying to build them more and more to show parents what's being offered, to show other students what other clubs are doing. We've had the last, at Las Posadas, we did have our guitar club at Shalom Peaks. They did get up on stage and do a little bit of playing, which we'll work with them to improve the sound system next time. But it was just exciting that they got up there with 1,400 people staring at them and actually played their instruments. But that's what we really want from these evenings, is to be able to kind of showcase all of that work. So we are working to build that and build that up. Our collaborative partnerships, so Pro Youth is our ACES program. And as I mentioned, they do fulfill our time requirements to provide us to the ability to have our clubs that don't run all the way until 6. And then we have First Tee, which I just mentioned. We are growing in our partnership with them and the things that they're offering our students. The newest piece of that is they have high school mentorship opportunities through a scholarship that they're offering. And so what that does for our students is they get to be the mentees. And so we are working currently to bring one, possibly two, of our middle school boys into a mentorship relationship with a student from Marina, who they will be bringing down to work with these boys once a week, boy or boys, maybe. So that's very exciting. Staffing requirements for ELOP, they have to meet our district paraeducator requirements in order to be the head teacher of a club. As long as they pass the test or they have the semester units, you can lead a club. So we don't teachers. It's not just for teachers. We also have our paraeducators that are leading as well. We do offer staff development, and of course, we keep our staff ratios within the guidelines of Continuous quality improvement is a constant work in progress, so we're always looking to improve. It's a huge program, so there's always places to build off of, and people have great ideas that they bring all the time, and those ideas require staffing and MOUs and those processes and guidelines to go in, and we're happy to do them as long as we're serving our kids and our kids are benefiting from the clubs and what we are offering. That is the main focus, and it's the main goal. Again, at the end of the day, we're always looking for student achievement, student growth, student success. And so my hope for this program is that we are pushing our students forward in a positive manner and building positive climate at schools. We reduce our chronic absenteeism and our suspension rates, and just have our kids be a lot happier to be at school, knowing that they have connections with other peers, lots of adults, that we have a fun engaging atmosphere.
I lost. So, well, just one of the key things, you know, how you were showcasing, how it talks about our family nights and what and all that good stuff. You know, going back into what Wendy was asking right now, perhaps we can use those days to give out that important information to all those parents because you know how we have them. They can all probably meet in one place and then give them all that information from each site, inviting them, encouraging them to participate into all those. Because I mean, that's when we have a huge show out, and hopefully, you know, getting that information out at that time, we can probably reel them in, them seeing, you know, positive movement and then want to go back to their site. So that was one of the things that we had talked about out in our conference, that seeing, you know, perhaps using that night, since it's a very successful night, to get that information out. And then the other one for the programs that run ELOP, do those students get a snack or what do they get during ELOP programs?
Yes, they get snack. They have a snack that's provided by food service and juice.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Are we still helping, or are we still part of the, I don't remember seeing it up there, Little League?
Not this year. There's some guidelines that we need to make sure that we follow, and we did not have the capacity to near doing that this year.
Okay, no, I just wanted to say.
Yeah, not this year. Hopefully next year.
So I'm just trying to see, because I know we had mentioned about clubs that were being offered, and they were being offered by teachers. Like it could be a parent or anything like that. So how does it work with the Little League? When you did provide that, and if you are planning to bring that back up again,
That's
my
part of
understanding.
that's part of the guidelines that we have to make sure that we're following differently, because we do have that requirement that if you are leading the club, you do have to have the paraeducator requirements fulfilled. So we are holding off on those right now and looking at how we can, if we can fund that in the future and what that could look like.
And so for the swimming lessons, is that one of our teachers is taking the
No,
kids?
so that is through First Tee, and so their coaches, because it's through their program, they have their coaches. Their coaches meet the guidelines so they can be a part of.
And then I had read a note here that Pro Youth, their employees also have to have those minimum qualifications for a paraeducator. So a associate degree or 48 semester units,
or they pass our paraeducator test. Yes.
Or they pass the test. So those that are applying for that position will come to the district and take the test here.
If they don't have the transcripts, yes.
Just because I've seen some very young people come and apply for Pro Youth, so I'm like, are these okay? Next question is, now that we probably might be Henderson and Reed question, unless you might know, but I'm not sure if we have kept track in regards to now that we have added, thankfully, a bus. I was just curious to see how the numbers fluctuated in regards to the enrollment now for sports. Because I know there was an issue before that some parents were not having their kids participate in programs like that because they didn't have the means to be able to transport them. So how have you seen that those numbers change, or have you tracked them at all?
During this time for basketball, the numbers kind of dip normally.
We're getting the word out, so we are getting kids to try out that have not previously been able to because of that transportation. So it has opened the door to more students to be able to try out for our sports.
I think it's just letting them know with time, for those who are interested, it's like keep in mind you now that have the possibility to have that transportation. And I think that would, again, in the meetings that everybody has, it's just emphasizing that, because that was a huge blow for a lot of parents, was just the need for transportation. And the more it's out there, I feel the more that they would like. I feel that there are students who are willing to, would like to join, they just can't.
Right.
So if we could just keep track of that as the sports keep coming along, just to see how those numbers differentiate from previous years. Now that we actually include that
Yeah,
with
no,
it as well.
absolutely. And we'll put messages out like on our Parents Square and stuff as this new one starts in January. Getting the word out there with basketball, because then we have the girls soccer, track, and we're starting boys volleyball this year. So for the next round. So we'll get it out so that for that next one will be known.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I move to approve action item G, approval of ELOP plan update.
All in favor?
Aye.
On to action item H, approval of residential report.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Taylor. This is going to be really quick. So we are looking at our first interim budget report. It's essentially the first time we've had to make official budget updates to our current year budget since it was adopted in June. We did minor updates in, we have something called a 45-day budget update for you guys, but it doesn't do this significant change to our system like in our interim reports. So the time frame that we're looking at here is from July 1st to October 31st that we're going to be covering, and how the things that happened during that time frame impacted our adopted budget. We're going to be looking at our general fund expenditures and the assumptions that we are looking at that impact those changes to our budget. And we're also going to be looking at the other funds that we have outside of the general fund as well. On slide number 3, we usually at this time talk about how all of our assumptions have changed since the time that the governor adopted the state budget. But really, we've only had one change in our assumption, and it was only by $1, and that our lottery went from being projected to be $191 per student to $190 per student. So it's going to impact our budget by maybe $2,400 in the long run. So not a lot to talk about on that slide. Our revenue. When taking a look at our revenue, our total amounts come to about $53 million, 52.9, and roughly 53 of that 53 million, only 4% of that comes from federal. I just want to point that out to you. Those are things like our special ed costs, our Title I revenue, or Title II, Title III type stuff. 87% of the rest of our budget is made up of state revenue. So the bulk of our money is coming from the state of California. And those are the dollars that we see in our LCAP plans, our lottery that I just talked about, that we're going to be missing that $1 per student. And things like our expanded learning opportunities that Dr. Ruby just talked about. 9%, about 9% is coming from other local stuff. And that's things like interest that we earn on those funds, and facilities use leases and stuff like that. And also, anytime we get reimbursements for things, that goes into our local revenue as well. Looking on slide 5, we see how our expenditures are broken down from salaries all the way to services and supplies and things like that. Taking a look at this, we've got our salaries and our benefits take up 74% of all of our general fund budgeted expenses. And I just wanted to point out that that's typical for a school district in California, that it can range anywhere from 70% to 90% in some districts. And of that, of what you're seeing on this slide here, 16 million of that is made up of direct instruction. So we're talking about teachers and paras and our essential skills paras and things of that sort. People who are in the classroom with the students on an ongoing basis. 6 million of that is our support staff. And those are all of our fantastic custodians and bus drivers, office workers, things of that sort. And 3 million makes up our certificated management, our classified management, and all of our confidential staff that we have working here in the district office. If you look on slide 6, we can take a look at what our projected fund balance looks like for the general fund and also what the components are that make that up. So for the current year, we're projecting our revenue to be 52.9 million, which we just talked about, and our expenses to be 55.9 million. And what I'd like to talk to you about is that when in cases like this, you see that in 1 year, your expenditures are greater than your revenue, that's actually called a net deficit in accounting. And you can see that our net deficit for current year is projected to be just a little over $3 million. And that is, all right, we're looking at negative. So if you're thinking of a number as going from a smaller number to a bigger number, right, our net deficit is improved in this picture than what you've seen in the when we did the budget adoption earlier in the year. Not significantly, but a couple $100,000 improvement that we're seeing there based upon all of the things that we talked about so far in this report. When you have a year that your resources are larger than your expenditures, that's called a surplus or a net positive. So, and in those cases, you see a growing ending fund balance. In our case, we're seeing as we have decreased enrollment projections, a net deficit. Several years in a row, you'll see a smaller ending fund balance being projected over those years. Based upon these projections, if you take that $3 million deficit and you add it to your beginning fund balance that you have carried over from prior year, our projected ending fund balance is $24 million. 71% of that projected ending fund balance is restricted, and it's restricted for use with special programs and that we sorry, my mind just blinked. Things like special ed and our pension costs and things of such. So we have the remaining 29% that you see up there is assigned to contingencies for economic downturns. And although what you see, that $24 million is not ongoing and it's just one time, it helps the district to maintain its required state reserve of 3%. So, and that keeps us at this time in a positive standing. So if you look at the next slide, I just want to right out the door just apologize. This is not accurate. I noticed it while we were sitting over there that when I saved this presentation, this slide did not save for some reason. So I'm just going to read a couple of the numbers for you and give you the bottom line. Our student body beginning fund balance was $4,424, and we're projected the student body is going to expend that for this year. So of their ASB funds, we do project that their ending balance will be zero after they spend all of that this year. Our child development beginning fund is just a couple of dollars difference in that. Our projected ending balance from the child development is $246,000 after the revenue and the expenditures for the year. Our deferred maintenance doesn't change a lot because we're only looking at interest. So it started out being $161 this year. We project with interest it'll be $166. That's a fund that the state doesn't fund anymore, so it's kind of obsolete. That was what was left over when the state stopped funding that several years ago. And the only thing that we could use it for is deferred maintenance type of stuff, because at the time that the state used to fund deferred maintenance, it was all restricted. So we could close that fund. It would take a special board resolution to do it. It would close at the county treasury too. It doesn't hurt to just let it sit there and accumulate $2 or $3 a year in interest, but we can't use it for anything except for deferred maintenance. So it's something small that could utilize like less than $200. That's not deferred maintenance. That's operations. I'm just saying. So our building fund, because of what we just did with the bonds, that we started the year at $5.6 million. We have that $12 million that we had dedicated, and then we're adding additional monies. We plan on spending all of that because we are doing projects. We're finishing up KCAM and we are starting Santa Lucia, and the costs that are associated, we project that building fund is going to be zero at the end of the year after all of our expenditures. Our capital facilities began at $8 million, and we project that it's going to end at $8 million with just a little bit of variance due to interest there. Same thing with our capital, our Fund 35, we're looking at, it began at the dollar amount that you see right there, and we're going to look at adding $50,000 to that in interest. And then our capital outlay projects was $73,000 after unaudited actuals, and we expect to end the year at $76,000 in that. So total out in our other funds, we project that the ending balance of them together is going to be $5.4 million for the year. So again, I apologize that I guess I didn't hit save. I'm not sure, but that concludes my presentation, and I do request that you approve the first interim, but if you have any questions, I can entertain that.
Any questions or comments?
I move to approve action item H, approval of the first interim report.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll go ahead and move on to, thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to our information items. First information item is the 2024-2025 KCUSD dashboard CASP results.
So Audra is going to kick off this presentation for you tonight. And keeping in mind, as in years past, this is the dashboard high above district level overview, because in February you'll have your annual LCAP year update, in which we then dig down into specific site information, student subgroups and things. But this is your large annual. The dashboard has now been released. The state is rolling back that release date each month for the next couple of appears though that eventually you'll be receiving your dashboard data, which is reflecting on last school year, at the beginning of the new school year rather than midway through. So, Audra, go ahead.
Voice won't carry. Good evening, and I want to apologize in advance because when I'm nervous, I typically get tongue-tied, and since this is my very first presentation to you, I'm feeling a little bit nervous about it. But as Dr. Taylor said, this is basically an overview and explanation of our 24-25 CASP and California dashboard results, and we will dive into more detail in February with the LCAP mid-year review. If you can go to the next slide. When we look at the dashboard data, there are demographics that they use to help determine what the performance scales are. And so this is what we have for last year, our total enrollment across the top, and then I included the prior year underneath it. So as you can see, this is it's staying pretty consistent with like just a little bit of dips in different areas, but our enrollment has been pretty consistent. Next slide. And first, I want to make sure that we understand that a little bit about how the dashboard works. So I'm going to go into explaining that process. The purpose of the dashboard is to provide parents and educators with meaningful information on school and district progress. The dashboard displays the performance of LEAs, schools, and student groups to assist in identifying strengths, challenges, and areas in need of improvement. And there are 7 indicators that are looked at, including English language arts, math, English learners' performance indicators, science, chronic absenteeism, suspension, college and career, and graduation rate, which those last 2 we don't have because of our K-8 range. But if you look at the dashboard, they use the color groups from highest to lowest performance, with blue being the highest and red being the lowest. And then they get into how do we determine those color groups. If we want to go ahead and look at the next slide. The dashboard display performance is based on 2 factors, status and change. And the status is the current year data that corresponds to the status. And then the difference between the current year and the prior year data corresponds to the change. So they use those. And what happens is there are 5x5 charts that are aligned with each indicator. And we use those charts to show where the performance levels end up being. So that if we can go to the next slide. This is kind of how it looks. The performance indicators, if you look onto the side, the left side going up, it shows the status, which is where our current performance data is, and it ranges from very high to very low. And then the change from prior year to the current year shows across the top from declined significantly to increased significantly. And so you can see the color changes vary. So I have some school examples. These are just generic schools that I made up. School A scored medium in their status level. So they stayed the same if you look across the change, which is why they're in that maintained category. And so when you join those 2 columns together, that's where you get the color indicator that shows where their status is for the dashboard. If you look at school B, they scored status of low, and yet they had an increase in their change. So their scores increased from the previous year. So when you look at those 2 matches, their color dashboard for this year would be yellow, which means since it's an increase, most likely they were in orange the previous year. Now, what I want to talk about a little bit is that the table and layout and color placements vary for each measure. So there's a 5x5 chart for each indicator and they vary differently. So the next slide I brought in just to show you a little bit more detail about how that works. This is the indicator slide for the English language arts for grades 3 through 8. So if you look at the status side, where it says very high to low, they actually have points from standard rankings there that help you to determine whether they get into the high range, the low range, very low range. And then there's also point increases or decrease that occur across the change side to help to determine whether it's a declined, increased, or maintained. Those numbers change depending on the category that we're in. So if you look at this ELA, nope, we're going to go back for a second. Sorry. If you look at this example, if we have like a status level, which technically means the points from standard to fit into the high level, but your points from standard changed from the previous year was only an increase or a decrease of 2.9, you would be considered to be in that maintained status of green. So if you look at the high column, you go across to maintained, it's green because the increase was in that small range. But if the increase, as we'll see when we get to some of our information, was higher than 3.0, then you get to shift over a column, and that can indicate a change in the color that your dashboard has been assigned. So going back one more slide, the overall, there we go. This is just kind of an overall slide that shows you the different indicators that we are assessed on and that we have dashboard colors on. So as you can see, we scored in the yellow dashboard for ELA, math, science, and chronic absenteeism. Our English learner progress was in orange and our suspension rate was in red. Next. So now we'll get into our individual categories, starting with our academic indicators. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail with each of these so that you can understand where we're at and whether we improved or not. So our King City Union increased to the yellow status this year. Our status level was in the low range. So, and that yellow status is aligned with the state average of yellow as well. We increased by 11.7 points, which is what helped us move over into the yellow category. And in order for us to make a change from yellow to green, we would need to see in the status area an improvement of 44.8 points to change to green. Now, I brought back on the next slide that same thing that we were using before so we can kind of see where we work. We were in the low range because we were at 49.9 points from standard, which puts us right on that status side of low. And then because we made that huge improvement of 11 point something points, it moved us into that yellow category. If you look on here, you can see the different point ranges and see like that's how you can look and say, how much do we need to improve to be able to change to green? Because if you look in the low category, there is no green, right? If you go all the way across, it's only orange and yellow. So in order for us to be able to get to green, we have to move up in the status side, not just the change side, which is why we have that 40 something points that we need to improve on to be able to get to green. Next slide. In mathematics, we remained in the yellow for our dashboard. The status level in this one was also in the low category. The state average is also yellow. We improved by 5.6 points, but it was not quite enough to move out of the low range. And in order to improve and move into green, we need to change our status up by 58.3 points. Next slide. Now this next one is only an informational. This is the first year that they have included science as a color for the dashboards. They shared information on science last year, but they didn't actually give us a color score. So it's not being used to evaluate us. It's just informational, but next year it will be on there as something that is used to evaluate. And so when we look at it, we scored in the yellow for science. This is the first year that we've been there, and the state average is also yellow, so we're right along with where the state is. We improved in science by 4 points. And I wanted to make a note of pointing out that this one is special because it's only testing certain groups of kids. We only test in science in 5th grade and in 8th grade. But it should be noted that when they are tested in 5th grade, they're not just tested on the 5th grade standards, they're tested on 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And when they're tested in 8th grade, they're tested on all of the standards between that time as well. So they're expected to learn and remember those standards from the grade levels that they weren't being tested in. And next slide. Now, because we're covering the academics, this is the piece where this is our CASP data, our overall CASP data for ELA, math, and science, and it's showing our improvement in each category from the previous year. So in 2024, we were at 25.4 for ELA, and we increased to 31.3% at or above, meeting or exceeding, whichever term you prefer to use. In math, we also improved, but not quite as much as we did in ELA, with a little bit over 2% improvement. And then in science, we also improved. So overall, we had improvements. We know it's not exactly where we want to be, and we want to keep working towards those improvements and making more growth. But it is something to celebrate that we did grow in each of those categories. Then I'm going to invite Kristen Pantaleon up here to speak about the English learner progress.
Good evening. The English Learner Progress Indicator represents the percentage of English learners progressing towards English language fluency. The CDE measures this by comparing the current summative LPAC scores in relation to the summative LPAC scores from the year prior. When we go into a deeper dive in February, I can share more data points for this. King City Union remained in the orange level. Compared to our state scores, our state is in the yellow. Those who increased in their English language proficiency level or maintain an LPAC score of level 4 are counted as part of making progress towards English language proficiency. I'll invite Dr. Ruby for chronic absenteeism.
Hello again. So chronic absenteeism, we are going in the right direction. We are still declining. That's a good thing when we're talking about absenteeism. So we remained at yellow, state average is yellow, and we are right in line with where we should be. And each year we have been declining. So good job, AP. Next slide. Suspension rate. So this one, this is, if you'll remember last year, we were in the green. We were in the green due to some misunderstandings around suspension and other means of correction. So we had a much lower suspension rate than what we should have. So that put us in a green, kind of in a false green. So of course, any increases push us into the red. We are still working on this. We did correct the misunderstandings by hosting an all-day Lozano Smith training for site admin on behavior education codes, including suspension and other means of correction. Our overall percentage is 53%, which is lower than the previous year, which was 6%. I'm sorry, the previous year of 2022, not the mistake year. And so we are still low, we are still going down. But of course, it's not where we would like to be. So we're still working on that. Just to kind of give you an idea of what can happen when our numbers fluctuate so sharply. Audra's previous school, they actually have a higher percentage suspension rate, and they're in the green this year. So just so it really does depend on the fluctuations. And in this case, obviously we had a steep increase, and that's what pushed us into the red.
Okay, so next steps are we will have the results will be reviewed within the sites who will identify celebrations and areas for improvement. As you just approved their SIPSAs, they will be reviewing those SIPSAs and looking to make sure that they include any student groups that were below standard in the red or orange range and analyzing any actions that they currently have that might need to be made adjustments to so that we can continue to work towards improvement. We'll continue the movements that we've started here at the district office, including our standards-based learning around math and looking into adding it to our English language arts programs. We are looking at math pilot adoption. We have continued the work around professional learning networks with the county, as well as looking at ways that we can support our teachers in providing more rigorous instruction and understanding the math frameworks, as well as the English language arts standards as well. Our sites will be bringing their input from their stakeholders to part of the 25-26 LCAP planning process, and the LCAP advisory committee reviews and revises goals and actions in the LCAP. So just a reminder, we will be going into more detail about this data with subgroup information when we have the LCAP mid-year review in February. Next slide. So just to kind of wrap it up, we know we have a lot of work to do, but we're very proud of our students and staff for the progress and the growth that we are making. And if you found this information really interesting and you want to dive into it more on your own, here is where you can go to get more information, this website right here. And it will show you all of the detailed information. You can type in any school district. If you want to do comparisons or anything like that, you can just do searches in there and get the information. And at this time, I want to thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, you can ask.
Any questions or comments?
Just a general question from me, I'm not sure if you can answer, but now FD691 and the ending of jail time and fines for parents for chronic absenteeism, how do y'all see that? But they do say that it's also in providing them with support and mental health, and so what have we found out? What have we found out in regards to? Does that mean that we're getting funds for that type of resource? Like, what have y'all heard?
So we, the most impact we've had this year is our letter 1 was changed by the DA's office, rewrote it in a very nice manner and telling parents that you have to send your children to school. They took off all of the kind of penalty language and made it very warm and fuzzy. It is something that I know we've all talked about and we are a little worried about because while it's very rare, I mean, I asked our DDA, I said, well, how many people have you actually had to file charges and it actually went through and everything, you know, and it's very small. No one knows if it's the threat of that does it or if it's just informing. So hopefully informing parents the way that we are, talking about the importance of them being at school and why we need them there every day. Hopefully that's what is getting them to school and curbing all of this. We don't have very many repeat parents to the DA. But no, we don't get anything extra. It's just something that the state has decided to. So we just keep informing and educating our parents on attendance.
How much outreach do we do to repeated chronic absentees? How much outreach do we do? How many home visits are we doing?
So what we do, we start with truancy. And so we work with the parents. Once a student is truant, which means they have unexcused absence, 3 of them. uh, the APs start meeting with them, have conversations with them about attendance. Then that cuts some of that down. Then we go to letter two. Letter two says, if you continue this, the DA you've now made the DA's list. They meet with them again. They go through the discussion, find out what it is that's keeping the kids from coming to school. And then so that cuts the number down again. Then we move on to letter three. They meet with the DA. That cuts the numbers down quite a bit. Like I said, we don't have a lot of repeat. Chronic absentee, that's 10% of the school year is what is the definition of chronic absenteeism. So what I've done, I started it last year and I'm working on it again this year. I'm giving the sites current chronic absentee list. So it would be 10% of the school year right now. So they can start meeting with parents earlier to try to find out what is keeping the kids from coming to school or keeping them from sending them to school before they actually meet the education code state criteria of chronically absent for the school year, if that makes sense. So I've been able to do those kind of bi-monthly and get those to the principals. The principals typically handle the chronic absentee, where they actually do meet with the parents and the office clerks, and they work with the families. Our liaisons are part of that process as well. And if we need home visits, we do them. We haven't done too many yet, but that is always an option. That is something that we have had to do in a couple of cases. We do bring in our school resource officer if we need to as well, just to try to if it's a student issue, let students know how important it is they come to school. We have our first parent waiver that just went through where parents can waive the letters and send because the student is refusing to come to school. So that goes straight to the DA and the DA will meet with the student. Really the whole focus is to educate parents, educate students on why you need to come to school every day. And of course, building school climate is a way to get kids to want to come to school every day. So those are the efforts.
I think it'd be essential, and I know it might not be the idea or ideal, but we need to start knocking on some doors in order to be a little more proactive. Because I understand the protocol, I understand the process, but at some point we need to be a little more proactive as far as when we look at our district and what we can do to do better in this area. But that's just my 2 cents. Nothing specifically for you, but I guess, I'll be the bad guy or the villain to say this because I know that if I wait until February for the LCAP, it's going to be a long evening, and it will be a long evening. So just let's prepare for that. But just as I mentioned, for us to start being a little more proactive in this area for chronic absentees. I'm also going to say for our site levels, I mean, we got to start being a little more proactive in a lot of the other areas. So where can we find improvement? What can we do different? Or what can we do more to align with whatever is working in certain areas? And I'm just giving you guys a heads up so that when we do meet back in February, it's not a shocker or surprise. It'll be an interesting meeting, I'm sure. Audra, thank you. I know that this is your first presentation to us, and we look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to our information item B, CSBA board policy updates, first reading.
Again, first read, you have quite a few there. You'll see that within these is not only board policies, but it's also the time of year when CSB starts bringing some of your bylaws forward for you to take a look at. So they're kind of walking us through that process to make sure that we're not forgetting to annually examine those. So these will be brought back next month as second reading and a vote.
Any questions or comments?
negotiations with
I was going to do it. So KCETA has submitted their request to Sunshine. The articles for teaching hours, for peer assistance review, and for salary. They're also requesting to add a new article to the contract for safety. Our team hasn't come together yet to discuss what we'd like to bring to the table, but we are coming together tomorrow for negotiations for our benefits. And so we'll have an opportunity to discuss that at that time, and then we can bring it forward to you at the next meeting.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? We'll go ahead and move on to communication from board members. And I just wanted to point out that I do know that we have our governance handbook item there. And it's in regards to some of the items that we wanted to revise for example, site visits and whatnot. So if you guys want to entertain it tonight, we can. If not, we can move it on for further discussion at the next meeting. I'm just putting that out there, but go ahead and open up communication from board members.
I'll try to be brief because I know that it's a long meeting. Overall, this past month was pretty busy, I guess. We went to CSBA. It was good. It was a good experience. Like last year, this is my second year going, and obviously we have a bunch of new ideas, and hopefully we can bring that to the table. Prior to that, I did have the opportunity to do an ELOP visit with Dr. Ruby, and ELOP, not ELOP. They told us that at CSBA, which we did at San Lucia, and it was pretty good. It was nice seeing the different programs that we have going, and hopefully we'll make it out to KCAM and Delray pretty soon. But that's about it.
I'll just mention I did go to CSBA, but then I had to come back because I was sick. I ended up getting vertigo Sunday of that week, and I still went to Sacramento and drove. And I shouldn't have done that, and then I drove back on Thursday, so I wasn't able to stay the entire time. Which is why I haven't also been able to go to school sites because I got sick. Sorry.
So this was the first time I went to the CSBA and I was finally able to go. One key takeaway that I believe Tony and myself we took with one of our classes, and I wanted to bring it out to everyone because I'm not sure if you've ever considered that way as a whole, is in regards to our students. In one of our classes that we attended, one of the presenters was saying how is it that we refer to our students, and we normally would say, oh, it's our special education students, oh, it's these type of students, and trying to teach us to change the mindset. It's like these are students who need special education services. These are students who need so and so, and it really did dawn on me. It's like that's so true. In a way, we kind of label them already from the get go, and we have to kind of switch that over, because they're all our students, and there's just certain students that need more specific help in certain areas, and it was just how we approached it and the language that we used for that. So that was a stickler for me, definitely in that. I was pretty happy. I was able to have 4 classes. They went over for tours. We had 2 from Delray, 2 from San Lucia that headed over. One of those days I had lost when I first had lost my voice, so it was hard, and it was for DLI class, so I had to be the one running everywhere. So, thankfully, it was great. It's good just to take the kids out for a bit and have them see something else different, being able to interact with them in a different atmosphere. So it was good seeing those again. We had the 2 from Delray and then 2 from San Lucia. But we're done for the year, just FYI, KCAM and stuff. Like, we're done for the year until next year for tours. But again, I was extremely grateful for that opportunity. But again, it's just, or it really weighed heavily on me as I was trying to think back of the meetings we've had and the get-togethers we've had in regards to our students and how we refer to our students, because that could also be impactful to them and how we that we even address them. So yeah, it was a great experience. Seeing members of our board as well as our administration outside of these doors as well. Um, something definitely different, and all those board members that you get to meet and greet, and everybody obviously has their own perspective of things. I look forward to see how different the Latino board meetings are and what they bring into play as well. I hope I'll be able to attend that one when it comes around. But I was happy I was able to finally make it to this one. Other than that, um, one thing um, everybody was talking about when to do meetings for parents, which would be like the evenings, right? You have a lot of people that work. Even though I have gone to a couple in Delray, which they do have a lot of engagement. And one thing we have learned in my job and things that we have tried to do for the community is if you feed them, they will come. And that is very true. That is very true. Or if you give raffles or things like that, people will come. And sometimes, even though it does have an expense attached to that, that is our reality. And we do have to think of those things as well sometimes, even if that's through donations, how is it going to work? But a lot of the times it will have to be in that sense. What is it that we can offer that can have them come over? How can we change that flyer? It's like, hey, we're going to be giving, pan dulce until supplies last or whatever. But it is our reality. That's how our community works. If you have something to offer for them, that will intrigue them to come as well, especially evening hours, as you all said. During this time of the year, things do slow down, so maybe they can come in a little bit earlier. But we won't know that unless we talk to our parents and see where everybody's at in regards to that. But definitely having those cafecitos in the evenings, that just more engagement in the afternoons would definitely help. And having these little goodies, of course, that would also add to that.
So first, I wanted to give a shout out to Lisa Malkowski because she did reach out to let us know that she would be doing the math protocols and CD on January 27th. So I wanted to go ahead and give her a shout out. I haven't had a chance to reach out to her personally, but I feel it's important that we acknowledge the good things that are happening within our district as well as what our staff are doing. So kudos to her. As the rest of the board has mentioned, I also got to partake at this annual CUSDA conference. And as always, there's always some takeaways that we can always bring back to further discuss and whatnot. So I wanted to go ahead and extend to the rest of the board that maybe we want to consider a board retreat. So setting a date aside for us to be able to come together and discuss goals and ideas and ways to implement some of these things that we learned about. And for example, the wellness coaches that we can possibly maybe look into a little more in regards to the lack of resources that we're currently facing at our sites, in our county. Let's see. So that's, yeah, I put that on our radar so that maybe we can kind of revisit sooner than later. Not that, I don't want to say that we don't have busy schedules, but that would be an ideal to be able to actually put some of these things into play, as well as aligning with, some of the goals that we might have set for the near future here. One of the areas that I did want to kind of take time to talk about on its own is our youth leadership. And, I know that the youth board member is usually something that we'll find in like a secondary structure, but being able to take what we currently have. So for example, this year we have our student bodies at each site, and being able to kind of implement or utilize them from, for this part of the remainder of the year, giving a small maybe presentation to them as far as what expectations are and what else we can do to grow their involvement in leadership, giving them a space even at these meetings to be able to come and also present some of the ideas and takeaways that they have for their sites. Then possibly with the upcoming year, having a little bit more of an implementation. So how they go about it, like with letters of recommendation, and do they meet, the attendance and the grade level. So that's something that I'm kind of also putting out there at the site radar, because that's something that I think that we're all interested in kind of wanting to start some form of implementation this school year. I also wanted to point out that I did have the opportunity and honor to be part of the DLI. So that was really fun, and I just wanted to go ahead and say thank you for letting me participate in that. It was nice to see just our district being a part of that, and just being able to see the community come out and be supportive. So that's all I have to share for my part of the board communication. Then we'll go ahead and move on to governance handbook.
I think we should table that one for the following meeting, just because out of abundance of time.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and ask you guys to go ahead and bring that back to us for the next one. I'm gonna save the unification topic for the last. NCSBA training dates. If that's the emails that we received, I did see that I believe they're on Mondays, and I think that there was 2 trainings, if I'm not mistaken. I'll just click on it. Yeah, it is. Okay, 3 meetings. Okay, so for this, do we have to sign up ahead of time? No, we could just. Okay. So we have time. I think we even have a meeting before then. But I think I might be interested in at least one of those. And see, so if anybody is interested, just FYI, so there's no one know. And how about, I know we brought it up last month, but we do have the NCSBA Excellence in Education Board, and we believe that we get to pick 3. So do any of you have suggestions? I'll put mine out there since they're still reviewing, but I think that the Monterey County Agricultural and Rural Life Museum should be one of those. I think I mentioned it last meeting. I know it's located in our community, but I think it does extend its services to the county. I think the second one that caught my eye or was in my radar was the National Steinbeck Center. I think that's also one of the places that extends to, various grade levels. I know that they have the writers competition every year, so I'm gonna be even more biased by saying Treasures as my third nominee, just because of all the North County and specific to community nominees that there was. But I definitely lean more towards the first or second. But I'm just, those are just my 3. Of course, we will pick as a board.
The 3 that we picked, things that we offered throughout the counties, at least through South County when it comes to us.
Okay. But ideally, the way that the executive get to go is which one is more countywide or more spread out throughout the county. So that's why I was totally biased with my third one because most of these don't reach South County, let alone King City.
That's what I was gonna tell you. The Binacional doesn't come to King City, right? Binacional, we haven't had any. So I would go with Soul Treasures as well as with the Monterey County Agriculture.
I would say the Monterey Agriculture and then Read to Me project. And the Monterey Agriculture, Read to Me project, and Soul Treasures. And the reason I say Read to Me project is because they do come to King City, they go to Greenfield.
No, I did too. Soul Treasures and the Monterey County Agriculture. That's right. We do have our students that participate in the Steinbeck writing contest. So I'll go ahead and add the National Steinbeck Center.
The only voting was always that easy. Okay, so back to the unification topic. As do we have to select the person or the representatives now?
Right, so I'm assuming we don't really have any new conversation of much tonight, but I do need to know who will be joining us. And as soon as I know the dates, I will let everyone know through my Friday updates what date we're meeting, but need to know who the one or two of you are that would accompany me to this meeting.
So I am a strong believer that we should have two, because just like how they do in jury selection, and they always pick those extra jurors just in case they have to bring one in. You know, they're informed, they're up to date, and they're not playing catch up. And considering how we've always been left out, I think that it's a strong opportunity for us to be a little bit more present and informed, and I would love to be one of those two people. But that's just me.
I agree. I agree with the two.
Now which two? Cindy, do you want to have us raise your hand?
Well, and we have no idea how many meetings there will be. So in all honesty, for all four of you, thinking about you're committing to the breadth of meetings unless something prevents you. So by having two, yes, you have a second voice, but I think you need to think about for yourselves, okay, can I be at the meetings? And I'm not trying to be, I don't mean that negative against all of you, but it's not just the January meeting. I guess, sorry, it's late and I'm mumbling. So we're assuming that these are the two of you that will attend on our behalf as we go through these meetings that then ultimately there will also be whole board meetings. But who are your two representatives? Think of this as a committee.
And questions. This is happening in an open forum?
No, these are not that. There's only two of you. These are not Brown Act driven meetings. That's why it's two representatives and the superintendent. Then there will also be open forum and meetings, but this is like your subcommittee that's setting the dates, having the conversation, liaison back and forth.
We know Venus, you want to be part of it. I don't know, Terry. They were going by seniority list.
These meetings, I'm assuming they would want to keep them all together before the July.
Oh, yes,
Because
definitely.
that's when the
Definitely.
state.
I couldn't hear your answer. I'm sorry.
Any other input from you guys? Because I'm wrestle.
Yeah, no, I mean, by list of seniority, yeah, you guys are the ones who have a little bit more of an input, so.
Say seniority, I bullied you out of it. So it'll be Terry and myself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so. You what? It's not on here, and so I was just be talking about. But yes, I guess. Okay, so I guess we have a meeting tomorrow. And on January 20th.
Tuesday, January 20th.
And Tuesday, January 20th, will be our regular board meeting. What was that? Oh, I thought she was adjourning. I thought she was making a motion to.
Motion to adjourn.
There you go. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and happy holidays.